Okay, excellent. We ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm so ready. Let's go.
Welcome.
Pumpkin spice latte.
Yes. Yeah, right.
We're ready for
We're
fall.
ready and ready.
Yeah, ready for fall.
Cheers.
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 Yeah.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, everyone out there. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and welcome back to another episode, another podcast with my beautiful friends after hours at Blondie's. I'm cheersing. Welcome in. Today we have a beautiful guest, one that we know and love and admire so deeply, so dearly.
Right back at you.
Bryn Liedl. I am so excited to talk to you today. Let's go back, all the way back.
Whoa.
Wind it all the way back. We obviously know and love you right this second, but how did you find and fall in love with music and the art of DJing?
Well, those are two sort of separate paths because not now, but originally because I fell in love with music from a very early age. Actually, funny story, my Oma took me shopping when I was like, I think 3 or 4, and I could pick out anything in Toys R Us, Canadian toy store, if you don't know. But and I chose a piano, like a little piano, and that. I think that was like literally the day that I decided I could choose any toy.
Yeah.
It was kind of a boring little piano, but I could play songs, and I think that was the start on some level.
Yeah.
And from then it was just music, all different genres. I was obsessed with country for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, just kind of whatever I was like allowed to, or like came from a pretty conservative home, so like I wasn't necessarily exposed to a lot of different kinds of music, but whatever I was exposed to, I loved.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it kind of, as my horizons expanded,
Yeah.
that I just kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And as I got older and teenager and stuff, I found emo music, which
Fits with the teenager.
It's a phase.
Yeah.
It's a phase, Mom. It really isn't.
it's still, some would say it's still a phase, because like I really resonated with the lyrics and
give me one second.
being able to
Oh yeah, for sure.
like sing songs from the heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just loved that.
I used to love. I mean, I still do, but I was like, when I was a kid, I used to love singing, like to the point where like in choir, the choir teachers were like, this guy should be a singer, and then puberty hit and it ruined everything. But like,
What? When was the last time you were in front of a mic?
I don't even remember, but like I don't have my vocal cords and stuff. It's not. I don't have the practice and training, but I used to be a good singer. Like I know the technique of singing because I loved it so much when I was younger. I used to be obsessed with singing, and the voice doesn't cooperate.
Well, you know where to come if you ever want to.
I mean, there's always we can always.
Right?
Yeah, like now
I
you
think we
sound
know
Madonna.
someone.
Yeah,
We can definitely find someone. Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of like navigating through different genres growing up, and until I went to my first rave at, I forget how old I was, I think probably like 16, and just doing like, you know, your seminal E-caps and
The whole experience.
Oh my God.
your mind's just blown, and I had never had an experience like that where like you had a group of people all there. Some would say fueled by substance, but I just saw fueled by community and being together.
Yeah.
And that was just a glue that maybe was helping, you know, maybe bring someone like myself who didn't understand the culture into it, and just fell in love from that day. Like literally fell in love. I was like, what are they doing? How are they making this music? And that was probably the day that I just started running with electronic music.
Amazing.
Do you remember what that rave was like?
It
Where
was,
it was
called Ep8.
Yeah, Ep8.
Do you remember the Ep8 rave?
Yeah.
It was in, I forget where it was, like somewhere out towards Hope.
Yeah,
If
I
you're
can't remember.
from Vancouver.
But yeah, that was a
like
big deal. Those are one of the big deal
the
ones.
Ep8 raves.
Yeah.
I don't even know who was playing.
Yeah, for sure.
Back then.
There's probably some pretty ridiculous trance. I don't know.
Probably. I just remember not even caring who was playing in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was more like I just wanted to go to another rave.
Right.
Just because I wanted to experience that again.
Yeah.
And, you know, just feeling that community. That was like the biggest part for me was the music and the community and everyone just being friendly.
Yeah.
There was no fights, there was no animosity.
Yeah.
And it was like, what is this
Yeah,
world?
totally.
Yeah.
It's in a
so
field
different.
happening. So it felt like I had like teleported to a different planet.
It's actually funny how, just as a sidebar, but it's funny how electronic music and dance music in general, the vibe is just so much more open, and people are more accepting of each other without really like, oh, I'm trying to look cool or I'm trying to look cool, you know what I mean? So we pick up chicks or whatever the vibe is in normal clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm spitballing here, but I feel like it's because it's just naturally more high vibrational music that it cultivates that a little bit. I'm just spitballing. I think I'm just.
If you've never been in that kind of
brainstorming,
environment before, too, like in growing up, well, you grew up in Vancouver, right? That's very unique. Yeah.
Yeah, but for some reason my paths just had not crossed with electronic music. I mean, we were actually talking earlier before the podcast just about how hard, like once I discovered electronic music at around 16, and as I started going to bars like around 17, sorry mom, 19.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
allegedly. Yeah.
You know, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There was like, you know, there was like Irish music playing in Vancouver at Irish bars, or there was maybe,
Approximately
like,
when
rock.
was this?
Yeah.
Like early 2000s or
Yeah. Can't remember.
So the electronic scene was just kind of being developed. Like we were talking to Gellert. And
Oh,
he
it was
just
almost
saying,
non-existent.
yeah, there was not too much going around, but whenever there was an event,
Yeah.
everybody would go.
Yeah, and that's actually when, so I discovered Kevin Shu because I met a friend who loved electronic music, and that friend is really responsible for educating my like sound palette as far as like digging into like John Digweed, Sasha,
Yes.
Way Out West, like a little, I would say a bit more like sophisticated sounds that you'd have to kind of know, have some culture to learn about, and so I'm really thankful to my friend Seth for like introducing me to all these vinyls, and because of that, when I saw these people coming through town once a year maybe,
For sure, yeah. You just jump
I'd
on
be
it.
like, I'm going, and then every time they played, Kevin Shu would be opening,
Yeah.
and ended up getting to the point where I wouldn't even care who was coming into town. If Kevin Shu was playing, we'd be
we'll
front
go.
row from the doors opening, just like,
Because you know it's going to be good.
Everybody's
Like,
excited.
I don't know this guy, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, because he was such an incredible tastemaker, and that was, I guess, my first real introduction to the art of a true DJ as like a selector, as someone who educates you in music.
Yeah.
Kevin's a
Kevin.
definite legend.
Kevin
I'd say,
Shu.
for sure.
He's
yeah.
still around, still playing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute
Felt
legend.
his
Yeah,
taste,
and played a key role in helping like launch our like the DJ section of our Northern House Studios, and just by like lending his name and endorsing it, and just can't be more grateful.
Yeah, so meeting him all the way back then,
Yeah.
you're still working with him now.
Still a good friend, and
Yeah.
he's honestly an incredible mentor as far as DJing. He showed me so many things, and I'm just so grateful.
Awesome,
Okay,
yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that connection, but that's very cool. Yeah,
So
because I know of Kevin. I don't know him
Yeah.
personally.
I'll get
We've met a
emotional.
couple of times, but I don't. I wouldn't say I know him
No.
enough to know him.
I
but
fell in love with him when you brought him to his studio,
Yeah.
to your studio, and he performed for us for 2 hours, and I was in trance the
Yeah.
entire time.
Yeah,
So I
just
can't
a
imagine.
legend for sure.
Yeah, being
Yeah.
there way back when. So take me through. Okay, so you've fell in love with music early on. You've loved it no matter what, and then finding DJs and art and that culture and that community. What were the steps that you took to actually start your DJing career, almost, or how did you learn and get a hold of decks?
Well, I would probably call it more of a production career, because I didn't really know. I wasn't really to be honest, too interested in DJing. I just wanted to make the music that I liked, because that was where I came from, and I was so tired of being in bands. Love you guys all, but like
Yeah.
your bass player friend needs to go pee in the middle of your session, and you just come on,
Yeah.
like I just want to sit and make music. And
Yeah.
when I realized that you could actually do that,
Right.
I was like, okay, this
Yeah.
is where I want to go.
Yeah.
Slight control freak.
Yeah.
I can do it all on my own.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that's where I really like leaned into and just started making music. And I loved trance music. I loved Armin. Again, Sasha, Digweed. Those were people that I was listening to, but something about the melodies in trance music at the time, because coming from bands, I could almost just figure out how to make a song based on how a band would make a song. Like you've got your lead, you've got your bass line, you've got, it felt very like similar to the structure of how you would create a song with a band. So that was the most familiar genre, I think, if that makes any sense.
I would say it was probably the predominant genre too, internationally.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas like house music was so rhythmic, and now like, you know, being so nuanced with it, I love that. But at the time, I just didn't know enough about rhythm to be able to really dive into house music. Whereas trance music was something I was like, I can make this, you know.
You really understood it.
Yeah, I understood it at a core level. So I just started making it and making more of it, and that's all I did.
So how many instruments could you play, or do you play still? Was that a key part in producing?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't use a lot of live instruments when I first started because I didn't really have the technical knowledge of like how to plug a guitar into a preamp and record it, or so at first I was just kind of in the box, like, what is GarageBand? What is that? Was my first.
No way.
I knew how to play the guitar, I knew how to sing, but we had never really gone into a studio, and we had done a couple sessions with tracking, but I was the singer, so I was never like in the engineer's room, in the control room,
in the booth, learning about
like
all the
figuring
technology.
out like, oh, how are we tracking, like how is everything working? I was just okay, when's it time to sing, you know what I mean, and when's it time to do my one guitar solo. So I was kind of learning a little bit backwards, but so it was very in the box when I first started. So I wasn't really incorporating a lot of instruments. That kind of came a little bit later. And I was just sending my tracks to labels, like label after label, and getting like denied. And I was like, oh, I suck. And that's when I realized the whole process of rejection in the music industry.
For sure.
It's like, it's just, you've got music and then you've got rejection. And that is just part
I think
of
it's
being,
every creative thing.
Yeah, just you will be rejected just countless times. And I remember I did this, so I had learned how to track vocals, and I had my little sister Bethany sing on a track, and I think, so I had started working with my friend Aaron, who lived in Vancouver, and he was kind of teaching me some stuff about how to, you know, approach labels and this kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, like, I'm going to send this track off. So I sent it to Go On Air Recordings, which was based in, I believe, Italy at the time.
Oh, cool.
And they were doing a lot of really cool things. It was
what time frame, ballpark?
This would have been probably 2012 that I sent it to them. 2013. Okay. 2012, around then. And then this was Giuseppe Ottaviani. Do you know him?
Say that again?
Giuseppe Ottaviani.
Oh, yeah.
So I loved his music. So I would basically, whoever's music I loved, I would find out if they had a label, and then I would send.
Yes,
that's kind of how I figured it out.
That's a great idea.
And I got this email back, like, we love the song. I'm like, what?
And this was the first one that had.
Yeah, this is like one of the first tracks I'd ever sent.
Wow.
And they're like, we love it. I'm like, okay, really? Like, you're gonna release it? Like, so. Bit of a backstory on that. My little sister was 16 years old. I recorded her in my living room. It was called Statues, and they're like, not only do we love it, but Brian Carney, who's still just a huge powerhouse in trance, he's gonna remix it.
Wow!
Whoa.
And I'm like,
wait,
sitting in my living room, like,
after countless rejections.
You're just expecting more rejection. You don't even know how to, like, okay, what's the next step?
I still remember the thrill. Like,
I
still remember the thrill. Yeah. It was just like, what? This is, oh wow, you can actually do this, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's possible even, you know, that you making something in your house or your studio, send it off to a label, they're going to play it for the world.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And the song the remix, the Brian Carney remix, ended up getting entered into Track of the Year with Armin.
Wow.
And it got on Armin's album.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
That year.
Huge.
So it just it kind of launched me into a different level that I hadn't been in before.
Yeah, now people can take you seriously.
Yeah. And I was getting like booked in Switzerland and around the world, and I didn't even know how to DJ. I'm like,
Shit, I have to learn now.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've told this story quite a few times, but like
Okay.
even the first time I played in
for the pod here.
For the pod, yeah.
If
We're
you've heard the
listening.
story, I apologize. But like the first show I ever did overseas in Switzerland, like I brought my little controller and like anyways everything froze and
Oh God.
everything
Yeah.
no.
went silent. There's all these people. I'm like, yeah. And
Oh
that's when I
wow.
realized
The
I
pressure.
should
Yeah.
probably learn how to play on CDJ.
Yeah.
So it's a big learning curve.
Yeah.
Right.
Big
Wow.
time.
Yeah.
So what was that time frame in between starting out your first production and then getting accepted by this record label and then going to DJ? Like how long was that?
The process was I probably worked for about a year just making music and getting it to the point where I would say a couple of years of work, and then I really lucked out. Like I think what I sent that label was probably subpar as far as production,
Yeah.
but being a vocalist, being a songwriter
Right.
for a year, like my whole life.
Yeah, your whole life. Yeah.
I think what really grabbed them, and the reason that they didn't really promote my original,
But the remix, yeah.
they did the remix, which used my sister's vocals because I wrote
Yeah.
those lyrics.
Yeah.
So I think I think if I was being hypercritical, it would probably be what they really latched onto was the lyrics
Yeah.
and the vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which are things that you've
Which
been
are
working
things
on
that
for
I
your
was
whole
working
life.
on
Yeah.
for my whole
And
life.
that's
The
what you have.
production itself, it did come out on Good Grief compilation, which Good Grief is like a clubbing brand from the UK.
Okay.
So it's still a very like reputable
Yeah.
album that it came out on, but I don't think the original got a solo release.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty sure they just released the remix on its own.
Yeah. And
They
that
saw
was
the
what
potential in
catapulted.
that, and that's what
My,
they wanted
like
to
your
work
name
on.
still like
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I was not worried about it. Like this is, and so kind of from there, really like learning. Okay, I need to like really focus on production, and even the one they released that was original, I think they still mixed it themselves.
Right.
Okay.
Changed it quite a bit.
Sure.
Right.
So let's just, that was definitely, it was a leap into it, but I had to kind of really figure out like if I want to keep staying on this level, I'm going to have to really, really step up my production skills. So that was a journey in and of itself, just realizing that like you get this initial kind of sort
Okay,
of,
it's gonna work.
this is going to work, and then you kind of hit the reality of like,
Yeah.
well, your
Not
songs are
yet.
still getting rejected
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
you had this
Yeah.
small
Right.
amount of success.
And
so.
how to keep that momentum up. So did you,
Exactly.
so in terms of developing your skills more, were you going to school? Did you have mentors around, or how did you kind of
all
like
self-taught.
everything?
Yeah, everything.
Good for
yeah,
you.
Just countless hours,
like on YouTube?
yeah, just
or-
sacrificing your social life. Everyone's
Yeah.
going out on the weekend, just in front of my computer, just making music.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
When you-
Yeah.
When
And
that-
shout out to my amazing wife Laura for listening to trance music
She is
24/7 every
amazing.
single day.
Same. Thank you,
Yeah.
Laura. Yeah.
Would you say after that first track got its bump, did you have access to like different people who might have been like, oh yeah, we could give you access to this person or this expertise or this sound or this something? Like nothing? Hey, it was just like you're
No,
back
I
to
was-
like your computer and
I was in
going at it.
Vancouver. There was no one that I really knew that was doing anything
That's true, I
similar.
mean,
So
In
I
2012, like it was either you
Well,
were
it was
listen-
released in 2014.
Right, okay.
So,
Oh, okay.
But yeah, 2012 was when so you have to realize it takes, especially for them to receive it, say they want to sign it,
Yeah.
send it to Brian Carney, he makes the
remix it.
remix,
Yeah.
then it gets, like this whole time
Then it
period
makes
was
the rounds.
almost like 2 years that I knew it was happening.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So there's a really long period of time from, it's starting to get faster now.
For sure.
But back then it was about a year to 2 years before
Yeah.
your track even saw the light of day. So I was kind of sitting on this information,
Yeah.
not really
Okay.
knowing what to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that though. Like the process and the time that it takes for you to submit something out, them to get approval, back and forth, and then finally release can be like up to 2 years. So all the music that's releasing now, what you're saying is it's a little bit faster now, but it could be almost like 2 years old.
If it's going through
Yeah.
what I would call legacy media processes, which is what you're doing. It's like you create something, you send it to a label, etc., etc. I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, you're probably at the point where you're capable of doing this right now, where you can produce a track, master it, release it, put it on even Beatport or something, and then like there's a chance that it just explodes or
Blows
doesn't
up,
without having to
yeah.
go through a label. I mean, you are the label essentially.
I mean,
It
still,
can be. It can be.
I have a release coming out in November. End of October, and it's been finished for a year.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was being shopped around for about 6 months
Yeah.
and signed, and then they took another 6 months to release. So about 2 years.
So
Wow.
but that's with the label,
it's
right?
still the same.
Yeah, that's
It's
so
about the
interesting.
same. That's
Yeah.
about the timeline
Yeah.
to get a release on a bigger label that
Yeah.
you want. You know, if you have patience
Yeah.
and you're like, I want to release on these labels,
Mhm.
it's gonna give yourself about a year to a year and a half
Right.
to get it released. And that's just kind of what it takes.
Yeah,
If you
and-
want to go that path,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah,
You could
for
self-release,
sure.
like you said,
Yeah.
and that's a lot quicker.
Or use social media or something, blow the song
Yeah.
up potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on, I guess, how you want to do it and how confident you are it would work one way versus the other, right?
The thing is, a lot of labels don't necessarily want a track that's had a ton of exposure.
Yeah, once
they
it's
either
out,
want a
it's-
track that's viral,
Yeah. Mhm.
or they want a track that no one's heard.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
They don't really want a track that's
Yeah.
had like a slight amount, like
A little bit of
it's been
traction.
out for a while.
I could see that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
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 Definitely. They want
Yeah.
something fresh
It's
and
either
new.
all or nothing, with a label, I would say.
Yeah.
So.
And are you curating your sounds and like listening to what the label wants and then making a song for them? Or like what is your process in you're creating your music and then you want it on a specific label?
Now, not nearly as much as I used to. I used to definitely like this is the benchmark, these labels, and I would just actually not even labels, but kind of dating myself a little bit, but like radio shows, like group therapy with Above and Beyond.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Pete Tong's show was a
To
big.
me, that was
Yeah.
the bar. So I got to the point where most releases, were being supported by Above and Beyond, and I can't thank them enough.
Amazing.
yeah.
Because
that's
and
huge.
but that was a lot of curation, like you said. Like, okay,
Right.
what are they playing?
Right.
How can I maybe
Tailor it to that.
shift to be what I would perceive as kind of a newer version of something that they're playing, and that worked.
Yeah.
But lately, no, just going into the studio and making what I love to play.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so, okay, so you've got a release coming out that you've been working on, getting everything sorted for a year. What was the process like in creating that particular song that's going to come out?
That song is. I'm not sure how much I can talk about it. Just
You don't
because
have to at all.
Hasn't been
We
announced.
can skip that.
But it's a vocal track and
Okay.
a collaboration that was in the works for a while and back and forth, and it's just the music industry. I would say if you're starting to produce and starting to put out music, don't get discouraged about how long things take. Just keep moving, work on a whole bunch of different projects, because like if I put all the weight on that one particular project, you get discouraged. Like,
For sure.
wow, I put a year and a half of work into this, and it's
Yeah.
just coming out now, and then maybe I'm not even making something similar to that.
Right.
So I would just say work on a whole bunch of different projects,
Yeah.
and just put your all into every single one, and just don't really put a lot of thought into when they're all going to drop. Just
That's
know that
a lot of that's out of your control.
just
Yeah.
know that you put your best into each project.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that's
amazing.
great.
If
Yeah.
that answers your
Yeah,
question. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
yeah, of course. Well, just like the beginning, producer, like I'm learning how to produce right now, very, very slowly, but like, even giving me advice in terms of like, okay, working on a whole bunch of different projects at once sounds solid,
Yeah.
Any other?
I think there's scientific evidence, not to sound like I'm intelligent or anything, that
He is.
So people talk about multitasking. When people talk about multitasking, it's like, oh, you're just distracting yourself and dividing your attention and stuff like that. But there was studies I remember reading. I can't remember where this from, but it was like it was actually started from Einstein, and he said that multitasking in a different way, which I'll explain, was actually the way that he kept everything like he was able to make these discoveries, because what he would do is he would have multiple things he was working on. He wouldn't just have one thing and then just pour all his attention into it. He would be like, I'm working on this thing, but I've also got this thing, and I've also got this thing, and he would spend, and it's like multitasking, but not like I'm going to hop between these things multiple times a day. It's like I'm going to spend maybe a week on this or 4 days on this, and it's like, okay, I've got a block. Instead of trying to force my way through it, go to the next one. Work on that. Now I've got a new fresh eyeballs on it. And then they did studies on that, and that was actually the most effective way to especially if you've got for things that are creative, where you have to create new ideas and you get blocked, instead of like pushing through a block and trying to force it, just refresh your brain, work on something else. When you come back to it, you're like, oh, you've got this new fresh set of eyes, fresh set of thoughts, and you can actually be more productive doing these things. And they said that translates into the office, that translates into creative space, that translates in almost every field where mental creativity or processing is required. Because when you reach that block state, most people are like, oh, I just gotta push through, and then you're just pushing a chain up a hill, right? So
honestly,
so that type of multitasking where you have multiple things you're doing, not multitasking like I'm working on it while watching TV and reading a book.
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think having multiple projects on the go at the same time is because, especially music production, you do need to sit there for X amount of hours and just do the thing. And sometimes, like you said, it can feel like you're pushing a rock up a hill. If you're just working on the one project, you're just sitting there, man, no inspiration's coming. I've just been working on this same project for weeks and weeks.
Everything I do I hate. It's like stupid, like
so if you have it, like you don't necessarily want to start too many projects, because then you're going to be, I mean, it depends on your brain. Like everyone's capable of something different, but I would say 2 to 3 has become kind of the magic number, because if I'm stumped on one, like, man, I'm not getting any ideas. I'm going to come in tomorrow, I'm going to work on this song. And all of a sudden, whoa, I love this song. I haven't heard it in a few weeks. Boom, and you're excited, and then you kind of follow that vein of creativity, and you're like, now I'm stumped again on this one. Then you go back to the other one, and you're excited again. And so keeping the excitement alive by having a few different projects, I think is what really helps me.
I think that's really valuable information for sure.
People don't know that.
Because I think a lot of people getting started will just feel like, because they got stumped on this one thing, they'll just get discouraged and maybe even quit, or like be like, oh, it's not for me, I obviously can't do this. And it's like, you don't want to necessarily get that stopping you. It's just a way your brain needs a new thing sometimes to just like clean the slate, move on to the next thing, and then you got to anyway, we're just reiterating, but it's really good. Really good to that you've mentioned that.
It applies in every, like, even businesses as well. Like, if, having music that I can go to after, because I also like run a studio, and sometimes I can't even think about this anymore. It's so stressful, and like all these targets that I have to hit, and all of a sudden you just go to the studio, that all melts away, and you're just making music, and you're sitting in the creative pocket. And then when you come out of that space, the next day you're able to face all of the challenges of running a business again, because you've kind of, I don't know, pressure washed your brain.
Totally.
Well,
cleansed it with creativity.
Definitely. I feel like I'm very much the same way too, and my paralegal stuff is all analytical and stress and people and this and that, and then I get into my little studio, my little workspace, and all of it melts away because it's all creative and there's no right or wrong answer, and you're just doing things.
And you're so consistent with your streams.
Which
is incredible.
I try to. That's the discipline of the paralegal.
No doubt.
Like without fail on Sunday. I know Leah's going to be just putting on a clinic.
9 p.m.
It's I mean, we've talked about this on the show before. We both started DJing at the same time, literally within weeks. I bought the thing because
he bought the controller, I took it over.
And then she was like, I want to do this, and then she did, and then like, within a couple months, she's already playing gigs, and it's just like,
I don't take no for an answer.
You're just like,
just go.
And this is, it's like the difference in like,
discipline,
one of my major issues is my perfectionism. So it's like, even though I might been ready for a long time, I didn't think I was ready because I wasn't where I would want to be. And even now, like, I still have a bit of imposter syndrome. Like, I have this gig coming up, and albeit it is a back-to-back, so it's not necessarily just putting myself into it.
You're on the list.
At the same time, I'm just like, I want it to be perfect, and now I'm like, I'm not quite sure of it, and blah, blah, and I know when we go and do it, it's going to be totally fine. And not because I'm intrinsically feel that it's going to be fine, my logical brain takes evidence from the past, and I know that all I'm doing is just over-worrying for no reason, and I know that when it's over, it's going to be fine. That's what thankfully, one of the good things about becoming old is you have a lot of evidence to show you things.
Yeah.
But I would say, if your brain
true.
wasn't doing that,
Yeah.
that would be another problem.
Maybe,
Definitely.
It would just show that you probably don't really care.
Right. Yeah.
So that hypercritical aspect is something that I've learned to like love, because instead of I don't try not to lean into the criticizing aspect, but I go, hey, thanks for showing me that I still love what I do.
Yeah.
Right. You
yeah.
care.
Thanks for those nervous butterflies, because I know that I still care enough, and that means that you love it, which means that you will probably do well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was like that with photography for me. It's like, I'd put out stuff and I'd be like, ooh, and then you put it out and like everybody's like, oh my god, that's the best. And it's like,
yeah, you're like, okay.
Or even now I'm significantly better than I was before. Sorry to get off on a tangent, guys, but I'll do a bunch of shots and I'll send them to a client and they'll be like, these are perfect, they're amazing. I'm like, I haven't even touched these yet. You know what I mean? It's just like
shots.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah,
Stockholm syndrome.
We are obviously in the industry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So speaking of the industry,
Yeah.
let's talk. You were talking about collaboration. You collaborate and you work with so many people in the Vancouver scene. Vancouver is your passion. You love it here, from what you've told me.
I do.
Yeah. And so kind of walk me through. So you've kind of started your DJ career. You've married the two of producing and DJing, but your true love is producing. Mm-hmm. Walk me through getting your studio and setting that up.
Wow, that is a great question. So I think I was starting to get noise complaints at my home studio.
Sorry, Laura.
In fact, sorry, Laura. But not just from her. I actually had to buy my neighbor Canucks tickets.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that bought me about 6 months.
Right.
And so I would just deliver everyone
When in
Canucks
doubt.
tickets in my building.
Oh, wow.
Always buy them Connects tickets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that only goes so far.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, so just to back up, I got asked by the record label that I had been releasing on to do an album.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't know I was making an album. I've just been releasing the odd single here and there, like, and they're like, no, we know that you can do an album. We know that you have it in you.
Wow, that's
And so
incredible.
that was really a crazy moment. I was like, I think I'm going to need a studio for this, because I realized that the deadline they wanted for me to finish the album versus how much time I had. I realized
Your typical turnaround as well. You're extrapolating.
I
that
knew
out.
kind of how long it would take me to make
Yeah.
each song, 12 songs, and I was like, I'm going to need to be working day and night on this. And so
if you remember, what was that timeline? Like, when did they
I think I
want
had about 5 months.
Wow, to make
5
12
or 6
tracks.
months, yeah. And they were going to include 3 that I had already released on the
Okay.
label in the album. So I had I already knew that 3 were supported like by Above and Beyond and Armin and Cosmic Gate. So I knew that we had like a pretty good chance of this album doing okay. And so I was willing to I'm like, if they believe in me, I mean, at this point, like, the only person not believing me is me.
It's you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
Better get on board.
so yeah, I realized I need a studio. Long
Right.
story short.
Yeah.
So I just put my name in and went on a bunch of waiting lists, toured a whole bunch of different ones, and some weren't the right one. I kind of knew in the back of my head that I wanted to potentially maybe turn the studio into something commercial. So there was a few like creative spaces I checked out, and I didn't fully have the idea formed yet, but I think just my higher self or whatever it was like guiding me in the background. Like, okay, like maybe this isn't quite the right space for what you're going to want to do.
Right. You want some room to
Even
grow.
though I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
And I ended up finding the room that I'm in now, one of the rooms that we're in now. And yeah, I just brought all my stuff from home. It was very... not very fancy.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I finished the album, and then I
Okay.
went, wait a sec, like, friends wanted to start working in there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this could actually be an
Commercially viable, self-sufficient.
commercially viable. Like, maybe I could book it out when I'm not in there. And so I started researching, going down the rabbit hole of studios, and as a full-on nerd,
Yeah.
I went, this is actually so amazing. This is something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
No one told me quite how hard it is to start a studio.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because
Yeah.
like most things I do, I just like jumped in.
Right.
Yeah.
For better, for worse. And figured it out and kind of figured out what a commercial studio might look like.
Right.
And tailoring it also to myself and what people like myself would want. You know, we're not looking at, you know, $200,000 mixing boards. We're, you know, probably just something a bit more simple so I can get to work really quick. So I basically built my own dream studio and hoped that it might be someone else's dream studio.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is so awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's kind of, and it took a
Yeah.
while though for people, because a lot of people came in, you know, especially that worked in bands and went, like this is a great spot, but we need this, this, and this, and so there was a temptations first starting out, like, like
do I move this into
should
more
I
of a
go
band?
get a finance, like go to the bank and take out like $500,000 and buy a mixing board, like,
Shit,
but then kind of going, is that really? I was given some really good advice that gear is a race to the bottom, because you'll drop $500,000 on a mixing board. And then the studio next door will get some financing and they'll drop $2 million on a mixing board.
Right.
And then someone will buy a mixing board that, you know, ABBA made their first song. Like there's really no, it's called like a gear race. And there's just really, at that point, you're just, who can afford the craziest gear? And is that why people are coming to your space?
Right, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of amazing studios that you would go to use top of the line
millions
gear,
of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget all my friends on Colorized Recordings were in London, and the record label booked them out a room. It was used by the Beatles. I think they spent like $2,000 or $3,000 for the day rate, and everyone ended up using an aux cord and a laptop in the lounge, all huddled around a laptop, making music because they couldn't get all of like the crazy gear to hook up to their laptop, and they only had like 8 hours, so they just put an aux cable in to something, and they were using the speakers and a laptop. And I kind of chuckled because I was like, that's what a studio is. It's a place where people just come and create, and they could absolutely zero shade on that studio. I mean, the Beatles recorded there. They should be charging that much.
Yeah.
It was maybe just the wrong application for that group of artists.
Yeah.
Of course.
And because
maybe half those artists have never even seen the equipment, so what are they going to do with it?
True.
But a lot of people will pay that to put their guitar through the same preamp that the Beatles put their guitar through, and that holds value for some people. And I totally get it.
Yeah.
But it was just funny because I was just envisioning, as my friend was telling me about this, all these amazing artists that are touring the world, huddled around a laptop in this, you know, multi-million-dollar studio using an aux cable and a laptop.
Well, you know, like, everybody says Skrillex made his Grammy Award-winning album on his laptop. You know, so it's not necessarily always about the gear.
Yeah,
nice
but
to have.
I think there definitely is a balance. You do need amazing sound. You need well-treated rooms. You do need great preamps if you're going to be recording vocals. There's definitely some sort of unavoidable things that you need in a studio.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
But I realized at that moment it's the environment that curates the art, and so and that's where kind of the philosophy of Northern House Studios kind of was birthed. It was like, this is going to be a place that facilitates the creation of art. It's not necessarily just about having this gear or this gear.
Totally,
and
gear
that
show off.
Yeah, it's creating a brand and an identity that this is the most important thing, is creating art and creating moments that you'll never forget. And
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what we're all about.
Yeah, and I feel that every time I walk into the studio. I get
Amazing.
so
Thank you.
inspired. It's such a welcoming space. You know, everything is so cool. When I was first learning to DJ, I was like, wow, there's so many buttons. Now I understand them all. I guess my question for you is, like, opening the studio and creating that beautiful environment. What were some of the hardships that people wouldn't necessarily know, and what is, I guess, your favorite parts now about it?
The hardships probably would just be money, because like nobody tells you the massive amount of investment you're gonna have to put in, and
Right.
nobody tells you there's like gonna be a global pandemic like 6
Yeah.
months after you open.
Awkward.
Yeah.
They didn't
like,
put that in
yeah.
the rule book.
Yeah, hey, where was the memo
Yeah.
on that? And,
Yeah.
and also learning
Yeah.
that kind of thing could happen at the drop
Yeah.
of a hat at
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
point now. That's
Yeah.
just a new reality that businesses face.
Yeah.
Is you could be just all of a sudden shut down
You're not
at
allowed
the
to
blink
do
of an
it.
eye. So kind of that was a major, I don't look at it as it was just a major learning experience. So, how much money do you borrow versus how much money do you fund from your own personal, like just a lot of trial and error decisions that like looking back, I'd probably give advice like maybe do this or do this. How much money are you willing to invest? And I learned the hard way on a lot of different things, but we're still in business.
Yeah.
Still going.
We're still kicking.
Yeah.
So, I
Had
think
to do something right then.
I think that's honestly just pure tenacity and also being willing to invest every penny you make back into your business.
Right. Yeah.
And not even ask what you're going to take home for at least 2 to 3 years. I
Yeah.
think
Right.
that's just the reality of starting a business. I have friends that have started multiple businesses in different sectors, and they all say a similar thing. Like, we just invest everything back into it, and so I think having an expectation that this is going to be this big money maker for yourself, like at day one, is you're just going to run out of steam because you're going to be like, why am I working for free? It's not working for free.
Yeah.
It's just you're investing everything you have into a dream.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think if you can I heard this advice from, I forget where I heard this. It was like an entrepreneur podcast, and he was asking these different really successful business owners how they made it. And this one guy said, just don't run out of cash. That was literally
Easier
like
said than
simple.
done, but
If the day you run out of cash is the day you're out of business. And so, an easy way to not run out of cash is just invest everything back into it.
Yeah.
right.
To keep it going.
Yeah.
And that's, that would probably be what I tell anyone that wants to do anything in the music industry is, unless I'm sure there's someone that can figure it all out before they jump in. But I didn't necessarily have that luxury. I kind of jumped in, figured it out on the go. I would just say be willing to invest all of yourself and everything into it. And if you really firmly believe in what you're doing that much, I feel like it for sure will succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
People feel that from you too when you talk
And
to
it
them.
may not succeed in the way you think it will either.
That's also true. Yeah, that's right.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And allowing, because no business survives the first market, the first like light of day into the market. The market will really let you know, you thought it was going to be this.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's going to actually be this.
And be
if
willing to pivot.
If you're too rigid,
Don't be rigid. Yeah.
it's not gonna work. So I think that feeds into arts, being a DJ, all of it. That those philosophies they do help in every aspect of your musical career, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what was an example of you having to pivot within the Northern House kind of space?
I think leaning into electronic music. I
Okay.
didn't think that was even a possibility in Vancouver, just based on.
Pre-COVID for sure.
Pre-COVID, I believe there's
Yeah.
3 shows a month in electronic music. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Blueprint was killing it with what they were doing,
But that's all
Yeah.
major artists. They already have
that's
studios,
big
et cetera.
established stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was a market, so I was
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to cater to bands and all these other and when I saw Northern House start to really get traction in electronic music, and I'm including hip hop in that as well. Just anything that is kind of in the box, and DJ oriented, that kind of thing.
Electronic artists.
Yeah, electronic type music. That's where it started to take off, and there was a bit of resistance from me in the beginning. No, we can't just lean into that. That's going to cut us off from all the whole market.
Right.
And then, but just going, no, this is where we're heading, and you know what? Okay, I at this point I don't even have a say. This is where it's heading.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Northern House
the
picked
people that
up
are
and
coming
Northern
to
House
you
has
this.
a mind of its own.
For real.
That studio certainly does.
I gotta get out of the way and just allow it to do what it wants to do, and just be a steward of what it's becoming, and so guiding it as well. So yeah, that would be probably the biggest one.
I think
It's just
Fascinating. Yeah.
which is funny because the main reason it's doing that is probably because of COVID. Because the underground scene really, like, after
Picked
a
up.
year of like nobody being able to party, this next generation of kids that like are trying to get things going, like we've talked about this on the podcast many times, like all these different promotional groups that were throwing all these renegade parties started getting followings and curating sounds, and and it's like the reason why the scene is thriving right now is because of what COVID did to those kids wanting to party and really stepping up. And we have so much to thank for that. I mean, I'm not thanking COVID by any stretch of the imagination. I'm thanking the fact that the human race is so resilient and creative that it could take this negative and really grow from it. You know what
Honestly,
I mean?
that's why we're sitting here today, is
Yeah.
because you deviated into that electronic music and allegedly during COVID started to throw, and have more live streams and invite more electronic artists in. And so you were finding it first. We were all discussing this before the podcast, but I think it's fascinating. You discovered Northern House first.
Yeah.
You guys met. And then you brought me into Northern House, and our whole worlds all changed. I think.
I think it was very much a
mine changed as well. Like,
Yeah.
I had no idea what we were kind of creating at the time.
No, we always look back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool, and I really love where we're at today. And I think your, of course, obviously what your part in that is a huge part of that, and the fact that it's all coming together. We're seeing a scene grow right before our eyes. That's never existed in the city. Like you were saying, you were doing like these raves back 10, 15, 20 years ago, and it's all trance music, and like you couldn't hear that at a club or find that at a venue or whatever. It had to be some like whenever I went to a rave, because I in that period of time I was all hip hop, R&B, other basically non-dance music. I would listen to all these other, I guess you could call them traditional music. And my buddies, Alia.
Alia?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alia,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you met like Greg C and Azim and all those guys back in the day. They used to throw big raves for Twisted and Solid
Twisted,
and all those guys.
Solid,
So, but that was all trance, right? It was all trance, and a lot of it was like harder trance than maybe what some people associate with trance today. And I did not like it at all. Like back then,
138.
Yeah, 138, like really
Hard,
like repetitive,
driving,
hard,
crazy.
like it was. I mean, now I have the ear for it, so I can appreciate it now. But back then I couldn't. But so I probably went to like 2 raves a year, maybe, and I didn't.
Did you go to Doom's Night?
I did go to Doom's Night before.
You probably
I've
saw
been
me
to
with no shirt in the front.
probably, yeah.
Pete Tom, let's
Some
go.
soother or something, whatever. No, but anyway, it's like. But like, it was a different time for sure. It was a different time for sure. I wish I was into it more back then, because like now looking back about how crazy those parties were, like those parties were unreal.
There was no
But-
phones.
No phones,
nothing.
I couldn't record any of that. There's
No.
nothing I could show somebody,
Just experience it. Just being there and drinking it all in and being in the moment.
Exactly. And
We don't find a lot of places like that. Like maybe Berlin now is probably one of the few places, unless there's other places that don't have a phone.
I experienced that this past weekend at the Vault, which is an incredible new venue.
Great venue,
which
yeah.
I'm sure both of you
Yeah.
have been to, but
Yeah.
it's a new venue in Vancouver, and it very much has that vibe. I looked around at times, and no one was on their phone.
Amazing. Yeah.
Nobody. And we all have phones. It's fine if you want to record something.
Yeah.
I recorded a few videos there, but I noticed, wow, not a lot of people are on their phones. And I had a friend fly in from Halifax, my friend Deza. He's on Engine Beats and an incredible artist. And he was in town this past weekend, and I took him to Gorgamish, which
Legendary.
is an incredible club. And
Yeah.
he said the same thing. He was like, no one's on their phone.
Yeah,
And
Gorg
so-
definitely has that.
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Energy
Like,
about it.
I almost feel like there are definitely clubs and venues that are everyone's got their phones out, but there are for sure some where people don't have their phone. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like an energy, you know, when you walk into a room and you just kind of like, if you have the emotional and, you know, awareness about you to pick up on what the energy is in that particular room and what the artist at the front of the venue is creating with his DJing or producing or something like that. I feel like if you click up on that and you feel that, you kind of get the sense of, oh, wait, okay, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, which is, you know, being in the moment, enjoying the atmosphere and the energy and, you know, all that sort of thing.
I just had a thought, actually.
Tell me.
So a
Do
lot
tell.
of these places like Gorg, like the Vault, like all these underground venues, a lot of the people who go to these places are the same group of people that go to all these places. You know what I mean? Like it's like people in the scene who party often and who know these places, because like I talk to people who aren't in the scene and they've never heard of these places. They're always like,
Never.
there's nowhere ever that you can listen to electronic music on the weekends. I'm like, because you're on Granville.
There's no
you dum-dum.
good music
So
anymore.
the point I know now. I mean now
Right?
today there is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the point I'm trying to make is that I think it's because these are people that party often. The incentive to record something because it's novel isn't there, because it's not novel for them.
No, that's
You know,
just
it's
their
like,
our
oh, we're
normal
just doing our
lives.
thing, we're partying, you know, we're enjoying the music, we're hanging out with our friends, you know,
Yeah.
that we see all the time, you know, maybe meeting some new people too that we've never met but are also in the scene. I think that it's because they're veteran partiers or like experienced partiers that there's less of the inclination to be like,
I would almost go as far as to say,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it would almost be these people who are partying and doing this kind of thing all the time are almost those who are born in COVID, you know, who have kind of like collected themselves and found similar groups
Yeah.
of people in COVID. And there's really no point in filming during COVID because where are you going to post it?
Yeah.
You couldn't really post it.
Yeah, the other thing too
You know?
is
Yeah,
that
that is definite. That was something I was thinking as you were saying that. Is you weren't really even technically like allowed
Yeah.
No.
to post videos.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very much like a prohibited,
Very.
prohibition
Yeah.
sort of era of
Yeah.
it was
rave.
kind of a mini prohibition for sure.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, bringing it into, unless you have a point.
I do have another point with
Absolutely,
that. Yeah,
please go.
so the other thing too is that the people that go to these kind of venues that are there for the music, it's a different type of people who go and party at like Pierre's or Granville or whatever.
The
Any place
gallery.
any place that has table service, you know, because a lot of people go out. A lot of normal people who aren't in the scene go out to be seen. It's a part of the mating
Spend
ritual.
money to...
It's the part of the mating ritual. They're going out to be
Yeah.
seen. They're going out to meet people, possibly hook up, yada yada. They're going to get drunk. Yeah, it's all about like, oh, look at me. You know, like, oh, there's a bit of that, and it's like, oh, let's look at our friends, let's take pictures, and we put it on social media to show that we were out. And it's
Yeah.
all about like, you know, the be seen kind of thing. Whereas, you know, we're going to the Vault or Gorg. It's like, the Gorg is the last place you want to be filmed at. You're already past your bedtime.
Last place
Very
You've
much
already
so.
been up
I
for
do
too long.
not
You don't want
want
to
a
be filmed
photo
with this.
in there.
But you know what I mean? Like, but also
Yes.
the Vault is, you know, they don't open, they don't start as late, but they do go late sometimes too. But it's
It's a different atmosphere.
it's a different atmosphere. It's not
Yeah.
like we're not going there. We're gonna get a bottle and show off and sparklers and there's girls dressed up and you know.
Yeah, no.
That,
We're not-
being,
we're not
that
doing-
being said, though,
Yeah.
I think there is like a beautiful intersection of both of those worlds,
Mhm.
and I think Vancouver is starting to get there. We see shows
Yes.
like RX at D6.
Yes.
And
Amazing.
I just played
Yeah.
with Cam. Speaking of RX,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Gordo at Harbor, and you
Yeah.
know, I think there was bottles there.
They do have table service
and,
there.
and
Yeah.
I was like,
VIP.
wow, okay, we're starting to
Absolutely.
see these worlds start to merge,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, some people may not love it, but I think it's great because
I
it
think
just
it's great
means
too.
more money, more eyeballs on people that are doing what they're doing.
We need that for sure, because
Yes.
I mean, one of the things I complain about in Vancouver all the time is how little these artists get paid. You know, and you know, it's, you know, part of that is because the people who spend a lot of money don't necessarily spend a lot of money at these shows, you know. And things like RX is a perfect example. You know, when I describe RX to my friends, it's like, what is it like? It's like, because it's D6, I would never be caught dead going to D6 on a normal night. Like, it's not my scene. You know what I mean? It's literally all the things that don't represent the
Quickly
scene.
changing perception.
Exactly, though. You know what I mean? But it's like,
Very.
you know, normally D6 is all about, you know, plastic girls and, rich dudes. And
It's at a casino,
well,
so it's
exactly
that kind of atmosphere.
And like top 40 music and yada yada. And it's like, that's fine. But like when we go to RX which is by all stretches of the imagination, underground music.
Complete
it's deep
opposite.
house, it's techno, it's progressive, it's
Melodic.
it's like it's underground.
It's such a welcoming
music.
environment too. I feel like you brought a little bit of Northern House into RX in that capacity.
For sure. And the thing is that because of the name of the venue, people who don't know the underground scene will go there, and a lot of these people will go to places like Europe or Tulum, and they'll party there and they'll love the music and stuff like that, not expecting to find it here, because where they go here, it doesn't exist, quote unquote. And then you go to RX and it's like, boom, here it is, you know?
Yeah.
Or like you said, like Harbor the last 12 months has booked so many great electronic music acts that normally would be a Blueprint thing, you know? And they'd be like either the Forum or Commodore or all these other places, Thunderbird Stadium, whatever, you know, and
the Piano Forum,
Shout out to Justin.
Shout out Justin.
So super cool. Like, you know, Harbor's been going into those acts. You know, there's so many good shows even coming up. Like, I'm looking forward to Zoo. We had Boris Brecha, who was like that was bonkers show.
So
like,
sad.
bonkers, and that exactly it is. It's a club that does have bottle service there, so there is the ability to generate that revenue to pull in a big artist like that. Because Boris could have filled a venue twice that size here. You know, like, I've never seen that place so full. It was a sardine can. It was unbelievable.
Incredible. I wish I was able to go
to
that
my God.
show.
I can't believe you missed that. It was unreal. And it's like the first time that Harbor actually sounded like, because they have issues with sound quality. The sound engineers there sometimes don't know what they're doing. They're getting a little bit better, but they sometimes don't know what they're doing. But Boris brought his own team and tuned it perfectly, and it was just fucking phenomenal. It was an unbelievable show. I mean, it's exactly, if you've ever listened to his sets and seen him live on like video and like some of his better ones, you're like, okay, well, I'm hoping he does something similar. It's exactly what you would expect. It was just such a great experience.
Amazing.
So but I mean,
but it's cool seeing that kind of level of artist
where
come
would that,
into Vancouver.
Yeah, where would that show
Whereas
be?
previously, before COVID,
I mean, again, it would have been something that Blueprint does, but it would maybe it was at the Forum, or maybe it would have been at Commodore, but Commodore wouldn't be able to support that crowd. Like, you know, it's not big enough. You know, what other venues might have been? Anyway, like it's not big enough for Rogers Arena, but maybe he would have been part of a Contact show or something like that. You know, I don't know. I'm just I'm rambling off here, but like you were saying, like there is there is a bit of that blend, and I do, you know, for all what people might criticize not wanting to, you know, it's again the Vancouver clickiness is coming through here. I think there's nothing but positivity with that, because then imagine going down Granville and you have like 3 places that are there's you know, Celebrities is playing progressive, and like Aura is playing drum and bass, or you know, whatever, like these
wild.
places start playing like electronic music, and you're like, holy crap, now we got all these places that are like blowing up the scene. You know?
And another really cool thing too is, like you mentioned, for example, like D6 and the crowd, talking to the management at these places, a lot of the people there in the executive positions love this kind of music.
Of course,
That's
and
amazing.
they just are realizing, whoa, people actually
will show up.
Hear this?
Yeah.
Sweet. Like, this is what we'd actually prefer to be listening to.
Totally, yeah.
Right.
And so seeing that shift happen as well in the staff and the management and in different venues is like really, really incredible to see. Because I'm like, hey, this is like a seismic shift in the city.
Big time.
Speaking strictly about Vancouver right now,
Yeah.
it's definitely, I feel like there's something in the air here. There's a shift happening, and I feel like some really beautiful things are starting to move. And
like 2 years ago,
place.
if you were going to go out to an electronic show in Vancouver, it was Tech House. Tech House.
Did you
and
ever...
like I remember like we were talking about Jordan Gill, for example, before the show started, and I remember with Jordan, he was the only person I knew that was playing progressive at a club, and he was getting booked because people were recommending him in the scene, but they wanted him to play tech house, and I was like, dude, why are...
Shout out to Jordan.
Yeah.
He's a Paul Van Dyke collab. That's very
Ooh,
so
very
sick. He's a
nice.
legitimately talented producer. I'm surprised
Yeah.
he's not bigger. You know, whatever. I mean, that's just Vancouver for you. But
happens that way.
yeah. Anyway, so like I was like, man, it's just so depressing. Like to think that such a talented producer and DJ that has a sound, dark, progressive, is being told to play tech house. Like, we like your sound, play tech house. Now you can go entire shows where they're playing like deep house and progressive and melodic
RX,
techno
for
and hard
example.
techno.
Yeah.
And they're barely any tech house, and it's selling out. You know, and the tech house is still happening, and that's great, and it's selling out. But it's like now we have all this variety, and it's like so great. Like,
well, that's what even you're saying. It's like, correct me if I'm wrong. It's like that formula is changing now, and you can sell out a progressive, a deep house. Did you ever figure out or like have visions of yourself kind of getting into the curation of an event, or like that's where?
No, kind of back to things that you having a mind of their own. Like I never would have seen myself being on that side of the fence. Yeah, it just kind of happened. Just leaning into it and making sure that if I do have a say in a lineup or an event, that it's always art first.
Yeah.
It's like my tattoo. This is art.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah,
it has to be art first. And there's other people on the team that will be like,
business,
well,
accounting,
I am the business, but like I'm into the business aspect, of course, but instead of thinking, is this person going to draw, it's like, what is their music?
Is there
that they're
good
offering?
artists?
And
And does it mesh with
I
what
feel
you're
like
trying
that's
to do?
the contribution that I'm lending to. So, yeah, that's always my focus. Is
art
the art of
first.
it, the art of the music, and I feel like people resonate with that.
Yeah, I honestly think that when you do that, and you know, I mean, not to blow smoke up your ass, but you honestly have insanely good taste. So
Appreciate
I think with good taste, as long as you like you said, focus on the art, focus on the artist, and how good is what they're providing going to be, it's just going to attract the right things, you know, like it's and then
attracts like it's
and maybe it doesn't draw as much the first time, but I'm sure like when you're that first day, the first event happened and people, it blew their minds. I mean, that just they tell 20 people over the next 2 months before you have your next event, or 6 weeks or whatever it was, oh my god, you have to go to the next one. You have to do
I feel
it.
like that's RX almost. Like, kind of talk me through. We got Cameron's perspective, but you're definitely a part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to just leave the floor to Cameron for sure with RX, because that's it. At the end of the day, that was like his idea, and I think one of the things he did brilliantly with RX is putting together a team of people where each person had their role and knew exactly what they were doing. So Cameron wasn't in a position where he was doing everything. It was like, okay, Bryn and Dom for Northern House are doing this. So-and-so's doing this. So-and-so's doing this. The team from the venue's doing this. Everyone had their role, and everyone executed to the best of their ability, because no one was brought onto the team that wouldn't execute to 100% of their ability.
Of course.
And I think that hats off to Cam on that one, because I think just as important as picking the venue as the aesthetics of an event is building a team around it. Because you just can't do everything by yourself. And you have to have a group of people that not just have your back or not just believe in it, but are also going to do their part to 100% of their ability. And I think that kind of goes for any business or any endeavor, but specifically with RX, that I think part of the magic of that event was just the team that was built around it.
Yeah, definitely. So what was your role then in RX?
So we were part of the live stream. We were the sound, also integrating part of the aesthetics of the event as well. We had a hand in the lineup as well, say, and that was what we brought to the table.
That's amazing.
And also offering just our feedback, being present in meetings and so and that kind of thing. And I think just having support of a team all together, and just kind of, what do we think of this? And having a group of people that you trust saying, no, or yes, I think that's a good idea. I think that's so helpful.
Yeah.
And I've actually learned a lot just through the experience of that, just in kind of how I would want to approach events going forward, because I've seen a lot of events sort of fall flat.
For sure.
And
Absolutely.
it's usually just a couple people trying to do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's just no way you can do everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would definitely say hats off to Cameron on building an amazing team.
He's a little genius, you know.
Yeah.
You would never think it.
I mean, tons of experience. He's done it, been there, done that. So
Yeah, amazing. So in events and stuff like that, you're talking about a lot of learning experiences. Are you putting together new events, or like if you were to put together an event, like what would be kind of your kind of like little palette of elements that you'd like to bring into?
Like what kind of event?
Like similar to RX,
or even just any
or-
kind of dance music
Yeah.
or event.
If I was to put on an event, honestly, that's not where, like, I love being part of events, but I think there's other people that are going to be putting on the whole event and have a passion for that. I think for me, I just love the music aspect of it. I love the sound aspect of it. Learning more and more about all the different aspects. Throwing an event takes a lot of work.
A lot of work. Yeah.
So much work.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work, and oftentimes I just want to be playing.
Yeah.
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 But I love being part of
So-
the business end, and I
Yeah.
love being part of the, from start to finish. It's very rewarding.
Definitely.
I would say if I did an event, it would be very music forward. I love what Circle's doing.
Love what Circle's doing. Yeah.
Yes.
I think
Absolutely.
our friends Dana and Gellert from Triangle
Yeah.
are doing some really amazing things.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think there's somewhere a marriage of sort of something outdoor in a cool location. If you
Yes.
could do some tickets with that. If you're listening, people in Vancouver, if you have ideas, like, let's talk, because I think we live in such a beautiful place, and all of the venues are incredible, but to me, doing something out in nature would be incredible. So that's something I think I would want. If I did an event, it would be around nature, around something in BC.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
just don't totally know how to do that quite yet, but
Yeah.
We'll figure it
it'll
out.
come.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got some ideas,
Yeah.
Bryn. We'll
Let's go.
collaborate.
Let's go.
So let's talk about you playing then, because you were playing quite a bit recently, like after COVID. I didn't see you
Yeah.
before COVID. I didn't know you before COVID, but it seems like recently you're popping off. You're doing a lot of shows. You just opened for Gordo. You've got another show coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm playing with RG on October 14th.
Amazing.
Support with Dom and Cam. We're doing a triple back-to-back, so that should be interesting.
Whoa, that's interesting. So talk me through your kind of favorite aspect of the artistry and the performance. Obviously, you love the music aspect of it, but kind of curating a sound lineup to open up for these artists or close after. What?
I think that really comes down to, like, who's booking you, because there's been some shows where people are like, do you want to be on support for this artist? And I'm like, honestly, this person's going to be way better suited, because I'm going to have to tailor down like my sound to the point where I'm literally not playing anything I would ever play.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people who are booking, and it props to all of the bookers out there in Vancouver, because it's starting to get quite concise. Like, if I get called for support on something, I can pretty much play my sound as a supporting act.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that just shows, the level of kind of taste
Yes.
that we're at.
Yeah, it's getting
If
so
that
much
makes
better
any
for
sense.
sure.
So-
Yeah. It's definitely, like I said, compared to 2 years ago, compared to now, like, I don't think what was happening to Jordan 2 years ago is going to happen today.
So
No.
huge kudos to all of the companies and everyone out there. But I think playing somewhere like, say, like Gorgamish, where it's like a 3-hour set and you're able to just completely play what you want, those I'd say are some of my favorite sets. I just can't say enough good things about Gorgamish, and just how that's really influenced my DJing style, and my sound, to be honest. So
Yeah. In what ways has it influenced? And I guess talk me through, give me a little, if somebody doesn't know you, maybe describe your sound a little bit.
So I like we touched on a little bit earlier, it was very much melodic and trance, and so the bookings that I was getting before were off of that music. So I would be, so like when my album came out, I was like touring in like Berlin and all these places around the world, and it was like fans of the label would come. So I could play a certain genre and everyone in the building was there to hear it.
Right.
But then when you come back home to Vancouver, there's might be like a handful of people that want to hear that genre.
Totally,
yeah.
Everyone else wants to hear pretty much anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can't just go into, say, a place like Gorgomish and play what you played on those other shows, because they were very much genre-based shows that you were being booked for. So I think finding my sound in Vancouver meant really like stepping outside of my comfort zone and starting to kind of shift my sound from a very melodic based genres into more rhythmic based house, techno, and I think that's playing places like Gorgomish, and it had to dig deep into my crates, like what music represents me but maybe is better suited for after hours.
Right.
And then being a producer, you're so buzzing off those shows that you go back into the studio and you start noticing your productions are getting
tailored to like that, darker, yeah.
But that's what I was gravitating towards anyways, and it almost gives you permission to really like dive in as a producer and start making the stuff that you're playing.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably how my sound has shifted the most. You know, I still obviously have so much love for melodic. I'm working on some indie dance projects right now,
So cool.
which I'm finding indie dance is an amazing way to kind of tiptoe back into some melodic and more like song-based writing strategies, and out of more of like the techno kind of style, but I love it all.
Because I was listening to your Paris not stream, I guess it would be a recording. Your Paris performance, and it was euphoric and beautiful and had these long big draws. I thought that was so gorgeous,
which is why I love melodic techno so much and have gravitated towards it, because it also has big breakdowns and there's permission for long melodic interludes between rhythmic sections and like that. Coming from someone who started with trance music, that really resonates.
Yes, absolutely.
But there's also simplicity to techno. It's I remember when I was producing trance, like some of the people I looked up to, like my friend Sonny Lax, like he was like, one melodic element would have 30 layers.
Wow, that's
totally
crazy.
And it's not a good lead if it doesn't have 30 stacked layers. And then I started working with techno producers, and they're like, there's not even 30 tracks in the entire song.
Right.
30 layers in the whole song.
Oh my
like
goodness.
There's like 8. I'm like, what?
Where'd they all go?
Doing it wrong? And then I realized, no, it's simplicity and doing more with less. So that philosophy has really helped my productions as well. Trying to do more with less elements.
I think too, I'm just thinking off the cuff here, because we haven't talked about this yet before, but I think a lot of trance is played in large venues. And like having that amount of nuance in a track translates in these large venues, massive sound, and 20,000 people in it plus whatever. And then like techno is like underground, like, you know, like tighter venues,
Small
tighter
little
beats,
dark room.
tighter.
Although when you hear one of those like rumble kicks at Awakenings in Amsterdam, you're like,
for sure. I mean, again, but you're taking like the people want to hear that there, and it's just like taking that to the next level, like on steroids, I guess you could say.
But it's still techno designed for stadiums.
Totally,
exactly what you're saying.
Interesting.
Which is awesome. I mean, But
do you know the story behind the techno drum, to get super nerdy?
Let's go.
I think I've heard this many years ago, but please go ahead.
Like,
I want to
know that rumble, like that very rumbly techno. So they used to play house in warehouses, and it would kind of have that rumble sound echoing, and then producers wanted to like emulate that, so it became an actual musical style. So that whole sound is actually came from trying to emulate a normal kick drum that's echoing in a stadium
Oh,
to make it sound like it's in a
crazy.
stadium.
That's
Which is so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Just how genres are born. And,
And how they evolve.
Yeah, and
too.
how they evolve, and now
Yeah.
it's just normal. Like that's
Yeah.
a techno kick.
Or even taking your, previously melodic,
Yeah.
learning with techno, doing more with it and shifting it. Like that's even pushing the genre forward a little bit more, I would argue too.
Hopefully.
I mean, techno's evolved like from when I was listening to it 15 years ago compared to now. It's like
music's
it's a
changed
completely different
so
genre
much.
almost.
Yeah,
it's like it's
Definitely.
crazy in a lot of ways how evolved it has. But it's also, I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that kind of harkens back to the old school, and you're like, oh yeah, this is like a raw old school sound, and it's and I mean, kind of a little sidebar, but like Vancouver in the last year and a half, 2 years is like really techno. Like the crowd for techno and drum and bass has really grown. Like those are the two ones
Very
that I've
much
noticed
so.
that techno and drum and bass have like exploded in this city.
And through a lot of hard work of a lot of like promoters, like especially like Vantech.
Vantech, for sure.
If you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
Like, there
That's
was
what it
no
was.
home for techno.
No.
And, well, Gorg was a little bit, and then Gorg started moving a little bit out of that really raw techno sound, and Vantech took the torch with that, and has basically created a home for that. Which is quite something.
Yeah, and the drum and bass, you could give that credit to Red Room with Blake and
exactly.
Red Room, and now even Koji with it's escaping me. I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to that one.
Yeah.
Koji is making drum and bass shows.
With Kuma.
Kumo. Yes, that's it.
They do a lot of bass in general, but like they play dubstep and
but
drum
they have a
and bass
whole
and,
drum and bass dedicated
sure,
night, and they never had that before.
Yeah,
that was
those
cool.
two genres have extremely, and I think that's over the last 2 years, and I think right now the deep house progressive sound is growing in Vancouver, like especially when you go to shows. Like I was at that Bootleggers thing yesterday, and that was nothing but like deep house and like like
I would
stuff.
almost say it's kind of the genre of Afro house.
Afro
which is
house,
like
exactly.
A fusion in my I wouldn't say it's the definition, but definitely progressive and deep house.
Deep house, Afro house.
What
was the other one? It was
vocals.
Melodic.
Jungle, like almost like a jungle-y vibe. Yeah. So it's exactly right. Whereas like you'd have to go to Europe or Mexico or whatever to fucking listen to that shit. 2 years ago. Now you go to that event, Bootleggers or RX even. There's just a lot of that there too, and you're just like
as well.
Porcano and these
true.
events are sold out.
Sold out.
Yeah. And you're like, this is insane. Like
Or
you could
even
not do that
the
before.
Patron pop-up shows that Silva played, I think last year actually.
Oh, yeah, Gene Ferris played that.
Yeah,
as
Gene
well,
Ferris,
yeah.
Sivs. We're gonna have her on the podcast in 2 weeks. Very
Absolute
excited.
Vancouver legend. Actually, shout out to Sivs.
Yeah.
Because Silva was one of the first people, along with Kevin Shue, to really endorse Northern House art, the DJ wing of our business.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
was one of the first artists to come on and help us. So
Amazing.
lend her name and credibility.
I
So
remember being at that.
nothing but love for Silva and her artist project Sivs and doing amazing things.
Yeah.
So,
She's
shout out.
amazing.
Shout out.
Yeah,
Shout out.
that first
So
show with
excited.
Silva was like, I remember so fondly, like she started going crazy, like that was like one of the best nights musically. And I remember you guys just riffing off each other, and Dom too, and it was just like, oh my god, like every 2 minutes was just like
Legendary.
I think I
Legendary.
Shazammed every song. Like I was just like Shazam. Like I just turned it on auto, put it down. Like I didn't. Every song is just
Before we had high-speed Wi-Fi.
crashing the street. Yeah, exactly.
Guys, stop Shazam.
No, this is all post stream. Like that first stream was over at that point. But yeah.
Well, then I couldn't even get to at points like when I was first going. There was no Wi-Fi down there. There was no internet at all.
No cell
so when you
reception.
went down there, you're just like, well, I'm entering the void. Let's go.
Yeah,
it was such an experience.
Shout out to Tellus for drilling us a line.
Yeah,
thank
tell
you,
us.
Dallas.
Thank you.
I never thought I'd say that before.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right? Picking the funniest people. But no, that's how things are grown and born, though, is like you create it, people will come, people are lending their names, especially the people in Vancouver. And what would you like to see, like in terms of maybe, I guess on two different hands, because you're kind of wearing two different hats. Your artistry, where would you like to see it go in the next couple of years? And then also where you'd like to see Northern House go?
I think for sure both have similar objectives and goals. Like I think sharing art with people all around the world, I think it would be like a huge objective of mine, and also starting to incorporate more live elements into my music. I absolutely love DJing, and I think there's something there. Like I think having a live show and then playing it afters. I think you can continue to DJ marathon sets even if you are a live act. I don't think being a live act means saying goodbye to DJing. I think it just is in addition to. And there's something about like a venue, like say like the Commodore or the old Imperial, which is sadly no longer here.
I know, I love that place.
That was great.
Those are just Vancouver venues, but there's so many around the world. I think you have this ability to really put on a show, and that's something that I'd love, like to bring on visuals, to do more of like a live performance would be something that I'm starting to kind of really try to look at my music as I make it, is how would I perform this live? What would I be using? And building that right now is kind of my main goal, while I continue to just release singles and DJ as well, because I love it all. So I would say that's sort of where I'd like to go, and I'm still in the process of discovering that for myself. Kind of nothing's off the table, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to have an open mind and see kind of where the music almost takes the project.
Absolutely, because it'll take you down different directions that you don't necessarily think of.
Exactly. And I think for Northern House, as a company, we're just continuing to serve artists, and I'd love to be able to serve artists in, you know, countries all around the world, and expanding and being able to share sort of what we've built here in Vancouver, that sense of community with everyone, and that heart, that kind of West Coast hospitality, I'd love to be able to share that as well. And I you know, we'll see what markets are ready for it and what aren't, but
it's actually go ahead. I was actually going to say that this kind of segues into a question that I had in my mind already too, is that, you know, with what you're talking about, I personally think that, you know, people like you and what you're doing, as we become more and more further down this path, I think Vancouver may become, ideally in my dream world, almost a destination, electric music destination. Like when you think about places like you think about places like New York or Toronto or Montreal or even like, you know, in Europe, you know, you were talking about Berlin, just like places that are known for this kind of stuff. Ibiza, if we're going to go really crazy, but you know, things like that, like Mexico, Tulum is like a big, I think if we do this right in Vancouver, we may be able to get to some semblance of that. So where do you think the scene is going, like, or where would you think it's going, and where would you like to see it going, whether those two things merge or not? I'm not sure, but
I see it being a global destination, and I feel like we're well on our way. And I think if people just keep continuing, like you know, I have so many friends that, you know, like my friend Renee, he's starting a new promotion company called Moonline, bringing in engineered beats artists to the vault. And,
oh, thank God,
you know,
it's like, so sick.
It's like there's that attitude of there's not enough room, or we need to, like, the scarcity. I feel like as soon as we can shed that, it's like an archaic mindset.
It is archaic for sure,
And I think in just embracing the fact that there's room for everyone to follow their dreams, and the more people that are following their dreams means the more opportunities for everyone, the more new DJs will have an opportunity to play, because there's just so many events, and maybe some of these newer companies can't necessarily afford sort of a bigger local act, so they'll try someone new and give someone a chance, and like it's just going to bring everyone up. And I think what's happening right now is really special. I'm a very optimistic person, but I do firmly believe, I grew up here, Vancouver's my home, and I would love nothing more than to see Vancouver become a good global music center, like a hub where people come and business can be made, like big business, big opportunities. and there's just been a sense of inclusivity with some of the bigger, more established brands such as Blueprint, especially like bringing Northern House in as a promoter for Foundation. That's just what an incredible move. And just an absolute ode to the underground. And seeing that just gives me so much like hope and optimism. And I just feel like, sky's the limit.
Yeah,
for Vancouver.
I mean,
Very
guys
much
like
so.
Alvaro and Rob, like, and like a lot of the big guys in the Blueprint company are deep underground music heads, and you know, they've tried. I remember a lot of different things that they've tried to do to get to where we are today that haven't worked, and I think that they appreciate where things are now.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
I honestly, it feels like such a great community, and I feel really privileged to be, you know, in the mix, and I'm just excited to see even like this podcast, for example, is just such a great representation of that, you know, giving a voice to people that are doing things in the scene, allowing everyone to tell their story. I think if we just keep being creative and whatever it is you want to do it.
Yeah.
And let's just include everyone, every single person, no matter where you're from, what you look like, what you like to do. It's like just inclusive. Let's go. Let's all do it together. And honestly, I don't see why we can't be a global destination.
Yeah, 5 years ago I would be like never.
No.
Now. And
So much
and you're an
potential.
optimist. I'm normally a cynical person.
And I'm right in the middle.
Literally.
Like a little bit of both.
I'm
a little up, a
naturally,
little down.
you know, my natural inclation is more cynical, and I couldn't agree more with you, to be honest.
That's
Like, I
very
think
true.
we're in such
Yeah.
a good time right now that, you know, there's a huge potential for this to become like something bigger than any of us can even think about, you know.
Could ever dream.
You know, I was big in the hip hop scene, and like I used to be obsessed with like the rap scene and stuff like that. And you know, when you look at like what happened in like you know, South Central Los Angeles, and all those artists came up, and like, you know, all those guys are famous and crazy, and like the Virginia scene with like, you know, Timbaland and Missy Elliott and all those guys, and like obviously New York and all those guys. It's just like that all started from the grassroots, and they all came up together and became internationally renowned
All together. Yeah.
And
they all relied on
and
each other, worked with each other.
There is a potential, because there's so much talent here. There's so much talent here. There's a potential for, you know, maybe in 5-10 years that could be Vancouver. You know, it could be.
I think the next step is Vancouver-based record labels, and I know there might be people listening like, we have one. It's like, I know, but like let's just get them bigger. Let's because I
Put
think
them on the
that's
platform,
in addition to
global stage.
events and performing, we need music that's
produced here.
That's produced here. That's hitting the Junos. That's hitting the Grammys. That's coming from Vancouver. Not someone that grew up here and moved to LA. Like I'm talking like people that are operating out of Vancouver,
from Vancouver,
charting from Vancouver. I think that's the next step. That's something that I'm really pushing with my music, and I know so many other artists are. And I think that's also going to be a huge layer in helping push dance music globally from Vancouver as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. What a great
amazing
note to end on, too.
I think that's a great note to end on, too. Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Thank you very much, my friend.
My head is
Always a
spinning
pleasure.
from all these ideas and motivation, and all right, I'm going to go and do it
now.
now.
Questions up here. Let's see.
Do we have any questions from the audience before we let everybody go? We've got some friends. Yeah, friends in the audience. Mika, hello. I am David Shin. Welcome in. DJ Tech P. Hello, how are you? All the comments are up here. Yeah. Avicii, Sweden official. Hello. Welcome in.
Yeah, I think people are just riffing off of what we were saying in the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. DJ
Without
Tech
context, it's we can't go back. But
no,
not
quite.
Any questions. So, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you guys for participating in the chat, and
thank you for listening. Thank you for
listening
being here.
to what we want to say. I mean, this is a great conversation.
Thank you for being here and lending your time and your energy and your space to listen and to learn from and everything like that. So we thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
We'll see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Same bad time, same bad channel, all that stuff. Yeah.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Awesome.
Good job. Woohoo.
How long was that?
5 minutes. No, it's 8:40.
I felt like it just.
I know, blew by.
I love it.